When I first got into tattooing, I was immediately shot down. All the doors I knocked on, I was sent away. I was told that my artwork was not up to scratch. I was not good enough for what they wanted. It was just constant doors being closed. There was this unwritten rule. You go to a tattooist, you get tattooed by them, you build up a rapport, you see if you get on with each other, and you see if you gel. Back then, we didn't have Instagram, we barely had MySpace, and I was really left with just like one option. And that option was just to go home, keep practicing my drawings. Didn't have an iPad then, pencil, paper, tracing paper, old school. And hopefully, when I go back, maybe I'll get accepted. I think after, quite a few years of, getting tattooed and trying to get an apprenticeship, a new studio opened up in my hometown. And, after months of hanging around, talking to them, helping them, getting to know them and building a rapport, they finally offered me that chance, that once in a lifetime opportunity. Almost 20 years later, I know, 20 years, I'm still at it. I've met some amazing people along the way. I've also met a lot of people that are absolute dickheads. Now, during this short 20-year span of my career, one thing has been very apparent, and that is the exponential growth of our industry. It is insane. There's more growth in popularity. There is a lot more mainstream acceptance of the tattoo industry. And whether we like to admit that or not, a lot of that has been attributed to TV shows like Miami Ink, Ink Master, London Ink, LA Ink, and all the other ones that are out there. They are a massive factor as to how we've got this mainstream acceptance of our industry. After that explosion, I would say, of, tattoo TV and tattooing becoming more mainstream, the industry just started growing even more. Conventions were getting bigger, they were getting better, and there were a lot more people attending them. Supply companies became more than family-run businesses. They started becoming these big corporations, and they were just growing in themselves, and they continue to grow now. And with that growth, there's more money, there's more backing. And with all that extra backing, they get to come out with bigger and better products and improve the tattoo industry and everything that we use. Some people think that this was a bad thing for the tattoo industry. And, they might be right in their own way. In most recent years, the tattoo industry, it has experienced a quite significant boom, with Forbes reporting in 2023 that 1/3 of Americans are tattooed, and the industry is on track to reach a staggering $4 billion in value. Although with this continued growth in popularity, it's attracting a lot more people who are wanting to get into this industry. But at the same time, it's also attracting a lot of people that are wanting to take complete advantage of people's wants and needs to get that foot in the door and get into this amazing industry and this amazing craft. Currently, the demand for apprenticeships, it completely outweighs the availability of apprenticeships. This has led to the emergence of more and more unregulated tattoo schools and tattoo academies that are promising to fast track people and get them on these courses where they will teach them to tattoo in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks. Now, it used to be that out of all the applicants, it was the cream of the crop. It was the very best out of the list of people that wanted to be a tattooist that would get that shot. There was a standard that was set when somebody would come in. And if you look at me, I got turned away so many times. But that is a good thing, because it encouraged me to keep trying to get better and improve. Unfortunately, now, money talks. And, if people are willing to pay to be fast-tracked, there are going to be people willing to take that money off them. Now, I don't know about you, but myself, I think that is disrespectful to the tattoo industry. And, it just goes to show that the people doing it, in my opinion, are not or do not care about the craft of tattooing. They only care about lining their pockets and making that wonga.
These courses, however, allow people who would usually not be accepted for an apprenticeship the ability to pursue tattooing. And don't get me wrong, if you love this art form and you really want to get into it, you will find a way. Now, while some instances there could be a diamond in the rough, that's not always the case. And easy access to crash courses often come with a hefty price tag. Some courses range from £1,500 right up to £6,000, and they go from anything from, like 2 weeks up to, let's say, a month. Some maybe do longer, but you could be paying like £2,000 to £3,000 for a 2-week course. And this is the bit that really gets me. Some of these companies, these academies, these schools, they are advertising that they're offering a accredited qualification in tattoo artistry or tattooing, whatever they want to call it. Now, unfortunately, for the victims, I'm going to call them, there is no recognized qualification in the UK for tattooing. So this does cause some concern, and it also raises the question of what constitutes a qualification in tattooing when they don't exist. In England, qualifications are regulated by Ofqual. That is a non-ministerial government agency responsible for overseeing all qualifications, examinations and assessments. While, on the other hand, accreditations, they're not regulated, meaning there is no overarching regulator such as Ofqual to ensure standards and compliance. These courses that were being offered with accreditation and being advertised as qualifications, they're not qualifications. They are CPD accredited courses. So qualifications are developed and certified by awarding organisations regulated by Ofqual. These qualifications are then submitted to the Regulated Qualifications Framework, or the RQF, to assess their compliance with necessary criteria and to provide validation of their value to employers and learners. CPD courses, on the other hand, is a different model focused on assisting professionals in tracking and showcasing their ongoing knowledge, skills, and experience throughout their careers. CPD training can take various formats, including events, seminars, conferences, classroom-based learning, and e-learning. Now, a great example of, CPD training in our industry would be seminars. You get, say, your favorite tattooist, someone who is an expert in their field, and they decide to put on a seminar. You, as a professional tattoo artist, go to that seminar and you gain knowledge and you learn new skills. That is our equivalent of continual professional development. In the context of tattoo crash courses, some companies claim to provide courses that have qualifications that are accredited by CPD UK. However, according to the CPD UK's official website, continuing professional development can be studied in a variety of ways, including courses, workshops, online learning and educational events. However, must not be seen as a replacement for a qualification. And some companies are doing this by sharing misleading information, they're false advertising, and they are using misleading language aimed at capitalizing on people's wants and desires to get into tattooing. It is also possible that these companies and these academies are just trying to capitalize on this ever-growing industry by supplying inadequate training and certification that are not recognized as formal qualifications, but rather they serve as an additional resource for professionals that are just looking to enhance their already existing skill set. This in itself brings along a whole load of issues, specifically when people are giving a short crash course in how to tattoo, then set out into the world thinking the course will land them a job in the tattoo industry, or even giving them the false confidence that they've got enough experience to be able to open up a tattoo shop and just be unleashed upon the public. The danger of this false confidence created by tattoo academies is people who attend crash courses are then left unattended to potentially cause damage and harm to the general public. This in itself has the potential to cause further regulation and restrictions on the tattoo industry, which in the long term could have a negative effect. Just using Wales as an example, in Wales, Cymru, where I'm from,
there's been a complete overhaul of the tattoo regulations, and this has caused tighter restrictions and control. Now, there are many pros and cons to the new licensing system, but one thing is clear. This has happened due to the increased growth of our industry and the increase of people who lack proper skills and training to be allowed to tattoo the public, which has caused public health incidents. Now, I'm not saying that tattoo schools and academies are to blame for this at all. However, I am saying increased access to unregulated courses that don't have any standardization or regulation to ensure compliance could be a factor. When you have schools putting on a minimum of 2 courses a month with a class of about 15 people each, it makes you think, like hypothetically, just one academy could be potentially unleashing 330 inadequately trained tattooists each year. And there are quite a few academies in the UK. So it does beg the question, are these academies bad for tattooing? And do the people who run them care more about cash than they care about the wonderful craft of tattooing? It's very clear that while CPD training can be a valuable resource for professionals seeking to enhance their skills, such as increased learning for infection and control, education on anaphylaxis and so on, an accredited CPT course in tattooing is not a genuine qualification. And if sold as such, it is misleading and it is not a suitable replacement, in my opinion, for a proper tattoo apprenticeship. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed my little ramble and my little discussion on the situation with tattoo schools, because it's pretty wild. There are people out there paying a lot of money and the chances are they're not going to get a job at the end of it, and also they're being missold and misled by these companies. I'm not saying all of them do it, but there are a lot that do a lot of misleading stuff. So yeah, that's me done. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again.